Hi, host Eric here. Talking with famous people. Third attempt at this video. Let's be quick. Number one, I'm going to talk about the type relation called semi-duality versus supervisor-supervisee. Number two, I'm going to talk about the impact on the modeling in general, the abstraction in general, of what I learned in a comment from a very considerate gentleman who commented and pointed out that I had the types wrong because of Socionics switching the P and the J thing. That in fact the types I was talking about as being such a good fit for the supervisor-supervisee thing were not that type. They were IST. They're ISTP in Socionics. So first, let's talk about semi-duality. Semi-duality, this relationship says a couple of things that I agree with and a couple of things that I don't agree with. Number one, it says that the semi-duality relationship, the introverted half of that, will sometimes feel as though, or seem, it would seem to an outsider, that the extroverted type is really not listening to them at all and just sort of not caring a lot about their opinion and talking too much. But they will not be mad about that and will adapt to it fine and not stay mad at the extroverted part at all. And May gently pointed out, as David, my friend David, did to me tonight. The one part I disagree with is it says that they don't coordinate well to complete shared tasks. I certainly coordinate well with both of them to complete shared tasks. So that may have to do with my own task completion ability, which is pretty high at this point, or it may just be a way that's wrong in my experience. Regardless, semi-duality thing seems to fit reasonably well in a lot of ways, but what I want to go into now is the impact on the abstraction. So I think the proper response to encountering this by me and by you would be to think, okay, Eric, well, you just made a video where you seem to be quite enthusiastically embracing the notion that these two individuals who you thought matched the type that Socionics was talking about are actually described as having a different relationship with you in Socionics. Now, you've got a few options. What are you going to do with this, Eric? Are you going to say, one, oh, I was wrong about typing the people? Two, oh, I was wrong in my interpretation of our relationship as supervisor-supervisee for some reason. Number three, are you going to say that, well, I wasn't wrong about that, but semi-duality works just as well? Are you going to say, I wasn't wrong about that, and semi-duality doesn't work as well, and is an indication of a flaw in the model? Or are you going to say, I don't know, something else? Well, now, how you approach it is going to make a big difference into the validity of what you're doing cognitively, in my opinion. So I still do feel as though there is a directive energy in those relationships in which I'm driving the action most of the time. Usually, well, Cameron will initiate contact with me. Usually I'm the one initiating contact with Dave, or setting things up like going out to eat or whatever. But not so much with Cameron. Cameron will contact me as much as I contact him about. Well, when he does contact me, it's usually come over to my house and let's do some stuff here, and then maybe we'll plan to go do something. Now, well, he and I, in some way, do have a hard time following through on a plan, but it doesn't mean we don't get shit done. And that's me leading the way there, right? I'm saying, well, how about we do this instead? So that's why that relationship seemed to make sense to me. However, that doesn't have to be. Maybe in this sense, I potentially had somewhat of a too hurried read on the type, the relationship type, because the reality is neither David nor Cameron is at all deferential It's just that they're comfortable with me taking the lead a lot of times, I think. So, there's that. And I did indicate that in that video as well, that there's this additional factor too, now that I mention it, of Cameron actually does work for me now, sometimes, and so obviously that's going to entail a certain amount of work hierarchy. I mean, not really, I'm not very hierarchical, obviously, but you know what I mean. If somebody's got to be, if we're working together, it means someone's saying this needs to be done, that's me, and someone's doing it. So, okay, as far as the model in general, so this seems to me to suggest a high potentiality for the Forer effect, which suggests that these descriptions could be applied to anybody, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, that applies to me." And I say no, that's not the case at all. That they do relate to my experience differently, and each of them contains some things that I agree with and some things I don't. The logical conclusion then to say is, well, then it's not very useful, is it? Well, if the mechanism works such that the heart of the thing is right, and some of the details aren't manifest differently than one would expect, that's consistent with the fact that life experience and differences in upbringing and stuff like that are going to modulate the expression of type in such a way that every individual is unique and distinct, despite being quite similar in certain important ways that we can identify mechanistically. So I don't think this does as much damage to my understanding of the model as I might think. I'm not quite ready to give up on this relations thing yet, because one area where it's consistent for sure is my relationship with the INFJ, and my personal history of being somewhat deferential with him, or deferring to him, not being deferential, but deferring on a lot of questions, on a lot of issues. And how that's not something that I ever, as a default, did with anybody else. I've never have done that as a default with anybody else, at least not since maybe childhood. Maybe in childhood I did. But, so that's consistent for sure. And of the three individuals to whom I attributed this supervisor-supervisee relationship, it resonated most clearly and truly and strongly with Corey. And that one I have experience on the end of the deferrer. So I'm pretty confident in my conclusion there. Now, what I want to check right now, I'm going to check it right now, I'm going to pause it and check it. I could be wrong with that one as well. So I want to assert right ahead of time that of the three people, I felt most strongly that he made that relationship matched up. Dave, I felt least strongly. Cameron, I felt more strongly, but at the same time, Cameron actually does work for me. So anyway, I'm going to pause and find out about the INFJ. Yep, that's backwards too. So, in fact, I am talking about the INFP according to Socionics. Socionics calls it the INFP. Introverted intuition first. Extroverted feeling second slot. Introverted thinking third slot. And extroverted sensing in the fourth slot. And I don't like their description of the INFP at all. I like their description of the INFJ for INFJ, but I don't like the description of INFP for INFJ. So let me try this here. INFP. INFP. Where are you? And ENTP. Illusionary relations. What are illusionary relations? These are relations of growing laziness. There are no other intertype relations that can deactivate partners so much as illusionary relations. Illusionary partners find it comfortable being relaxed together, discussing different subjects. What one partner is talking about is always interesting, but in order to understand the partner better, the other partner needs to force themselves. This difficulty in making an effort also makes achieving goals together almost impossible. Mutual business or other activity is complicated because illusionary partners do not understand the reasons and motives of each other's actions. Whatever one partner tries to achieve usually appears insufficient and worthless to the other because partners expect different kinds of activity from each other. They become negative and may criticize each other's intentions and objectives. For an observer, this misunderstanding between partners can be humorous. The introvert partner usually tries to free themselves from the attempts of the extrovert partner to impose their opinions. The introverts seek independence. The extrovert partner wants to make their introvert partner into what they consider to be a normal person. Both partners are distrustful of each other's abilities. Disagreements in these relations are usually short because partners are drawn to each other. From time to time, illusionary relations become really warm and caring. It normally happens when partners work together but not on the same task. Partners may feel inspired with the result of a successfully finished project. However, when they try to start a new project, they again meet the same difficulty in cooperation. I don't find that to be the case. But I do find that this last bit, illusionary relations become really warm and caring when partners work together but not on the same task. That's true. He can work with me on my task. I can't work with him on his task. And when he works with me on my task, it works best if he's driving that bus. You know what I'm saying? Like, here's what I want you to do your thing independently of me, and I'll plug it in. Right? We figured out a way to work together fine. As long as I'm the one responsible to do all the work, and he just gets to come and be Corey, then, it works fine. He's lazier than me by far, so he's way, way lazier than me. But yeah, I could hang out with him all day long. Just like that's for surely true. Find it comfortable being relaxed together, discussing different subjects. And really, I guess that's what Corey and I do mostly when is play, Our respective projects have always been independent of one another. We never try to really work together on anything. We work under the same umbrella, but we didn't try to collaborate in a shared decision-making kind of a way on anything, right? I'd have my domain and stuff that was my decision over, and he'd have his domain and stuff that was his decision over. This one, except for all the difficulties part, this does seem, actually, now I think about it, quite accurate. I think that what I'm describing as deference, and then the transition away from deference and decorrelating complications in a relationship, and I guess I really should say deferring rather than deference, because there's nothing deferential about it, But I still find myself deferring to him on art decisions, stuff like that, on lots of stuff. He seems unusually wise and knowledgeable and insightful. I think it's that introverted intuition thing. When it says that are drawn to each other and that the relations become really warm and caring, that's my feel about it. Anyway, that's it for this video. It's going to have to go because this is my third try.